I've been feeling this way for far too long. And now you're gone.
So it's been about a good year that I've been using Zigbee in my production smart home and pretty much relying on the usage of them day in and day out. And no, this isn't going to be a video about how much crap I can put on the table when we go over all the little things. If you do want to see, we go through a lot of different hardware and issues and whatever it may be on different ones and which ones I hate and which ones I do like. Definitely let me know. Shoot a comment down below. Maybe we'll go through a bunch of different Zigbee stuff that I have, because I have some on hand and more than this. It's addicting. But in the time being, I'll leave some of my favorites down in the video description down below. And those are affiliate links, and the way those do work, there's no additional cost to you, but it does help out the channel. I do appreciate it. So if you're new to, well, what is Zigbee stuff? I've done a bunch of different little roll-up videos on Zigbee and kind of what it is, but a real quick basis of what it is. It's a wireless protocol that goes in your house. It routes and does all the magical things. You just plug it in. Most of the time, you just take out one of the products, such as a smart bulb or even door sensors, water leak sensors, for you never know if that toilet starts leaking and you're not around to go fix the issue. It could save you a bunch of money. There's tons of different things like that, from motion sensors, and there's no soldering, there's no flashing. I know we like to do a lot of it on the channel, and sometimes this is boring, but then sometimes it's just refreshing to be able to open the box, push the little button on the back, and boom, it's on your smart home network, and you can just do all the things with it and start monitoring whatever it may be. Now, if you're using some of the little manufacturer hubs or different ones, say the even Smart Things or these little different Linkind ones, or even down to an Amazon Echo, video may not exactly be for you, but hey, maybe it's an opportunity for you to even go bigger and do more with the different devices in your home. So we're going to be doing most of this with Home Assistant and Zigbee to MQTT. And no, it's not very confusing. I know there's tons of terms and whatnot, but the little master radios, the one I like is the CC2652. So if you ever see those numbers, make sure it is a 2652 or better. I'm assuming they may probably have some better chipsets come out down the road. And it's not that confusing or anything. Most of the time, you just plug these into your hub, like say Home Assistant, and whether it be your computer or whatever it might be you're running Home Assistant on, or Zigbee to MQTT, because not everybody runs Home Assistant. Trust me, I understand that. And it's just configuring it, plug it in, and rock and roll. Probably upgrade the firmware. I did a video on that as well. And that's pretty much it. It's sometimes, like I said, boring. You just take the stuff out and pair it up and you're done. So one thing I wanted to make sure and cover in this was that some of the setup that I see and the issues out in the various forums and Discord and whatnot, because I'd like to get you set up where you get a solid Zigbee network without having to change things later. Say I didn't say it correctly on my previous video exactly right, and hey, yeah, go ahead and blame it on me. I'll take the blame. So here we'll correct things, get you going, because some of these settings, if you do change them, you have to pair everything back up. And yeah, that sucks. Walking around, it's a pain in the ass with your phone, trying to pair all the things up and unscrewing light bulbs and pushing buttons and digging behind toy. If you got a bunch of devices, yeah, it sucks. So we're going to get things set up correctly from the get-go. What controls all this? How does this all work, and how does this all tie in? I know most of you are out there running Home Assistant, maybe some OpenHAB people, or just some Node-RED people, or say you're new to the thing, and you may want to go check out what Home Assistant's all about. It's really awesome home automation software suite and does all the cool things. Zigbee to MQTT is just like a small add-on of that handles the communication and all the administration of your Zigbee devices. So you can do your pairing, you can delete stuff, rename stuff, you can do all the little things, you can even interact with them in there. Now there is Zigbee built into Home Assistant itself. It's called ZHA. Some of you may prefer that because there's less installation, but there are some issues with some devices that I've found, such as even as of recent, the little Linkind motion sensor, the newer firmware actually just doesn't work on ZHA. It works fine in Zigbee to MQTT. I've even seen people say it doesn't work right in some other Zigbee things. But hey, I don't know how Zigbee to MQTT does the magic. No one's done any type of fix to make it work right. It just works. So that's one of the things, along with some other different sensors that I have had different, some of the TP-Link ones, those wouldn't even pair at all with ZHA, but they work fine after people added them to Zigbee to MQTT. So I just prefer to use this one. That's the one we're going to cover. Another good thing is it's decoupled from Home Assistant. So if there's an update or something needs to be done in Zigbee, they don't have to wait for the new update of ZHA to be rolled into that monthly update of Home Assistant. So they can just roll out a new update every day, which is pretty much what they do. It's insane that they have some of the development updates just pretty much daily on as things get added to Zigbee to MQTT. So you may be asking, well, what is supported right by there? Should I go to some other crazy, weird website that has nothing to do with Zigbee to MQTT? Absolutely not. Go to the source here, Zigbee to MQTT. It's curated by all the different developers and the people that have done the adding the additional devices to Zigbee to MQTT. So you can know it does work. So go dig around. It's got a bunch of cool pictures. You can search by vendor. You can see what it exposes. So you want to find all the different ones from different valves or whatever it is, or you just want to straight up search for temp. You can go in here and say, hey, look, there's me a temperature sensor. And boom, you can go see, and then you can go Google where to buy that particular temperature sensor if it's available, through your channels of where you can buy things in your country. Pretty cool stuff. And then another thing, they have all the installation guides on here. If you don't want to watch my crazy long ass videos, you can skip them all, go straight to the guides right here, go through all the little installations, whether you're using Docker Compose, or even you're just using Home Assistant and want to do the add-on thing without having to be all the geeky stuff. It's really easy to do the add-on, but there are a couple different limitations, and I do like to cover that on the installation of Zigbee to MQTT in the supervisor. Now the big key here, I see a lot of people skipping the configuration because they think it's just, hey, hit the add-on, mash the button and hit the road, right? And then start pairing stuff up. Yeah, possibly. Now, so I do get it, but jump into the configuration. There's some things we need to change here. Of course, you would need to change the port based on which device you have. I covered that in one of my previous ones. Can't cover them all here. They have all the different ones from the different ports, and then the Ethernet ones. Hey, if you get stuck, jump down in the Discord link down below. Will definitely help you get the correct port. You see the default is 11? Don't leave it default unless you really want 11. But go jump in, say you wanted 15. Just change it. Takes seconds, saves you a lot of time. Next thing is, you see this network key? You'll notice a little pattern right here. I know math is hard. It is hard for me. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. That's not a great key. That's your security network key that should be unique and should be yours. So that's one of the limitations, though, with the supervisor add-on thing is in regular Zigbee to MQTT installations with Docker and whatnot, you could just change all this to generate, and it would make a random one. Well, you got to do the random thing yourself. Change some of the numbers around, change this PAN ID number around a little bit, and make it yours, make it unique, and that way you don't have to worry about anything or somebody sniffing your network or potentially jumping on your network with other devices because you're using a default key. Especially be bad if, say, if you're in an apartment or whatnot, or a dense area and there's some other Zigbee to MQTT users that left theirs default as well. Now, if you do change this stuff later, quite all right, but there is a feature in Zigbee to MQTT that requires you to go delete the backup file on your device first. Otherwise, it's a two-step procedure because it doesn't want you to accidentally break your network. Just read the log. It'll tell you what file to go delete, and you can delete that file and you restart it, and it should be good to go. So, Zigbee channel. this is an important one, very important. I see this get confused a lot. And the problem is the numbering doesn't really make sense. So in Wi-Fi, if you look at this current graphic here, and we get this from, just to give credit, the Ubiquity UI community. If you Google Wi-Fi Zigbee channels, you'll find this graphic. So if you look, there's typically 3 non-overlapping channels, and that's in a 20 megahertz in 2.4 gigahertz, and there's a ton of numbers here. Trust me, don't let your eyes glaze over too fast here. But in the Wi-Fi for the 2.4 gigahertz, there's 1 through 11 on the channels in the US. I know some countries have more or less, so we're just going to talk about what I can turn on in my area here. If you have multiple access points where you have, say, a Wi-Fi in the front of your house and the Wi-Fi in the back, you'll want to set those on, say, channel 1, 6, or 11. Don't have them overlapping, and that way you can roam from access point to access point and they don't kind of step on each other. Well, you don't want your Wi-Fi really to step on your Zigbee either, because Zigbee runs in 2.4 gigahertz as well. That's what helps bring the cost down, because you have that whole economy of scale where Zigbee devices that are made in one country can be used in another country. It's just great that it works that way. So pretty much for the most part, you just can buy whatever Zigbee devices. You don't have to worry about what country it came from. What I would recommend, and you'll see a lot of things recommend, is to use channel 15, 20, or 25. Because default, it's channel 11. Well, you can see it's right there in that power alley of Wi-Fi channel 1. So you could be stepping on your Zigbee network and be causing some issues. Then there's the whole thing about ZLL channels, Zigbee Light Link, I believe is what it's called. Some devices will only work on those channels. So it's just best, just go ahead and pick those in between channels. You're going to have less interference. Find a good channel, 15, 20, or 25, and call it a day. Now you may be saying, well, why don't I just use 26? Well, some devices don't support 26 again. And then there's a lot of different things I've read that say in some countries, including the US, there's a reduced power on channel 26. So I try to stay away from that one as well. So pick your channel. Call it a day, 15, 20, or 25. So I wanted to address one of the misconceptions I see on a bunch of different guides and different websites and even on different Discord forums at times, is they're saying to take the sensor, and this is the little Zigbee water sensor, and you're supposed to bring it to your system really close and pair it up, and then go bring it and put it in the bathroom by the toilet or whatever, right? No, don't do that. That's not going to be the way you should do things. What you should do to have a good Zigbee network is you want to build out that mesh first. You want to pair your devices in place. So what does that exactly mean? Well, take, for instance, a little plug such as this. This is a little Lenkind plug. Most devices that have mains power, except for the SingLED light bulbs, those don't do routing, but everything else, for the most part, usually when it's mains power, is going to do routing, or they call it repeating. What you'll want to do is go ahead, if you're building out a bunch at one time, is go ahead and place all of your mains power devices first, pair them up, and kind of build outward from the coordinator itself. Then that kind of creates your mesh, your stepping stones, and then you'll want to add and pair in place your particular sensors. You maybe say, why is that? Well, then you pair it with the coordinator that's way across the house, when yet there's this plug that's right there in the other side of the bathroom. Well, you want it to go ahead and talk to that plug right away. And for the most part, some things will save on battery power. They'll talk at a lower power to that plug. It's just going to create a better mesh network. So just basically pair your stuff in place. Stop doing that thing and bring all your stuff next to the computer. That's just stupid. Now, another cool feature I highly recommend you turn on, because again, you have that CC2652, right? And it's up to the job. Trust me. Is this availability? What does that mean? It's going to tell you when devices fall off the network or they just haven't been heard of for so long. The default's like, I think, 25 hours for battery devices, and it'll mark them as offline, which you'll also see them as unavailable in the Home Assistant front end. But that setting is not turned on by default. So if you jump over to settings and you want to turn on availability and make sure it is checked, and you do need to hit submit, and then you need to restart Zigbee to MQTT for it to take effect. Now, if you do change it to advanced, you can come in here and change the timeouts. If you really want to get advanced, I think you can even change the timeouts per device as well if you dig into the configuration a little more. Now, then there's another setting I do like to change is if you look under settings and advanced, scroll down past the extended PAN ID. It's all those red squares, and change your last seen to ISO 8601 local if it's not set to that. And it's a little drop down, so you don't have to remember exactly what I just said. And that's going to drop your current time. That way you can see that in Home Assistant to see the last time it was seen. So once you do any little settings in here, I'll see if I can go grab the ones for the supervisor, because I believe in supervisor, if you change them in here, the configuration for the add-on overrides that, unfortunately. So I'll see if I can grab the little YAML stuff and put it down in the description down below for you. Or if you can't put it there, you can definitely jump into Discord and ask how to do it there. If you do like Zigbee to MQTT as much as I do, smash one of those buttons for those guys. They do a lot of hard work and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this product to make it really work well for your home, and because we all rely on this every day. Last but not least, and I see another issue in there, is do make sure you are on the latest version of Zigbee to MQTT. If you have been using it for a while in Supervisor, the address did change. There is a thread on how to migrate your stuff to the most recent version. It's not too bad to do. I'll see if I can put that link down in the description as well. Now, of course, if you're on Docker Compose, you just pull the new container and call it a day. The coordinator revision, that's going to be the firmware. As you can see, I'm using the 2022 January 3rd one. No issues. I use it in production. And I'll leave the link to that weird guy that did the long video on how to upgrade that thing. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll leave that one out there. If you're wondering, hey, do I have to do anything special for my devices once I add them and pair them with Zigbee to MQTT to get them over to Home Assistant? Nope. Automatically, auto discovery through MQTT, they'll pop straight into your MQTT integration, and they'll have all the things you can go through. The names will be there based on the name you gave it in Zigbee to MQTT, or you could really name them in here as well. It's pretty simple to do. It's automatic. Probably even by the time that you jump from the GUI from Zigbee to over to here, it's already sitting there waiting for you to add it to your automations, GUIs, whatever it may be. Now, lastly, there's a weird thing that the Xiaomi or Aquarius sensors, and you may be thinking, well, how I'm not pronouncing it right. Y'all picked on me on that live stream. I like to just call them the aquarium sensors, right? They're just shortened. Well, they have some issues at times when you're trying to pair them and then even trying to keep them connected. Even Habitat, I know we're talking about Home Assistant and Zigbee to MQTT, but hey, it's all Zigbee from there on. They have a whole thread devoted to just those particular devices, and that should tell you something. But sometimes they have some decent devices, like their little temperature humidity sensor or their little motion sensor. But if you can get them paired up, it has a little pairing dance at times that I have to do, or some people have shown me where you push the pairing button every second or two while it's in the middle of doing the configuring, and it pairs up just fine. But I've also found some other tricks to get those paired up as well, because they're sticky. And what do I mean by sticky? Is that if you take it and pair up that Aquaria device with next to it pairs up to this plug, well, then you happen to move this plug over to the other side of the house, most devices will automatically, over time, reroute to the best device, except for the Aquaria ones. They just suck at trying to fix their little mesh thing. I don't know why. It's just, I guess they don't use some standard Zigbee stuff like they talk about in this article. So what's the best thing to do? Well, with Zigbee to MQTT, there's a cool little feature, and I didn't even know it until Tinkerer showed me it. If you come up here in Zigbee to MQTT in the GUI, when you're going to go add something into your device list, you're typically just want to hit permit join and hit all, right? And you maybe never paid attention to what the all was. Well, hit the little drop down next to it. And now you get all of your different mains powered devices. Like, hey, this patio floodlight. Maybe that Aquarius sensor is going to be right next to that floodlight. And yes, that floodlight would have power all the time. So you could hit Zigbee, say on my instance, patio flood. And then now the option says permit join, Zig patio flood. And then now it's going to do the little countdown. And then I would go ahead and do that pairing when I'm right next to that floodlight. And I would probably want to use my phone, tablet, or laptop actually when I'm over by that floodlight. So just keep that in mind with the Aqara devices. They can be kind of weird, but hey, sometimes they have some decent sensors that really no one else has. So I do understand getting a hold of those sensors. Just got to play around with some of the weirdness they have. So hopefully this wraps it up, helps a lot of different people and get set up and get running and hit the races with doing Zigbee to MQTT and get a really awesome Zigbee network. And because you one day you'll get to play with a cool little map like this that a lot of people say at different times it just wants to look like a pentagram of some sort. But it's pretty awesome that once you do get a bunch of different devices, you get to see everything in this little neat map that's cool to look at. So I appreciate all the Patreon subscribers, YouTube members, the whole thing. We definitely couldn't do a lot of this without you. It definitely helps out the channel. And hey, if you don't want to do it that way, just share our stuff, like it, shoot us a comment down below, whatever it may be, or hell, give us a thumbs down. I don't care. And well, that's it. And y'all know the drill.
Press all them buttons, and it's cool and stuff.
You excited some more again? Excited? What the hell?
Okay. Edit that part out and edit it out.
Okay, I'll